Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Data Values community event, Forging an Equitable Data Future for All. We're really pleased to welcome you all to today's event and to get us to started. We're excited today because, in particular, we're celebrating the one-year anniversary of the Data Values campaign. So we have a lot of exciting accomplishments to share, and we want to hear from you about the upcoming year. So here we go. We're going to get started. As you all know, time and again, we see the role that data plays in policy, in governance, and in digital transformation. This was on display in spades at this year's SDG Summit and at the UN General Assembly. From laws and regulations to artificial intelligence and climate technologies, we know that the production, management, and use of data play a critical part in building an equitable and just future for all. However, many data practices around the world continue to exacerbate unequal power dynamics, exploit personal data for profit or political gain, and reinforce structural inequalities. So as we race to keep new technology, these inequalities continue to deepen because the power dynamics driving who develops and controls the technology and the data that fuels it hasn't changed much. And as you all know well, the Data Values Project aims to address those power dynamics head-on. So over the last 2 years, we've initiated discussions to establish a foundation for a more equitable data future. And our collective efforts, working with all of you, have resulted, as you know, in a detailed white paper and presenting a shared vision for a fair data future that focuses on agency, accountability, and action. So last September, we launched the Data Values Campaign, which is a global movement uniting hundreds of individuals and organizations from around the world, all dedicated to creating a fair data future. The campaign aims to transform every aspect of data from collection to funding, governance, and use, ensuring equitable benefits for all. Now, central to this campaign is the Data Values Manifesto, which encompasses 5 key principles. I like to call it our 5-point plan for a fair data future. It highlights inclusion in data, accountable data governance, data literacy, transparent data sharing and use, and more responsive and well-funded data systems. So as we mark the 1-year anniversary of the campaign, we're here to highlight the inspiring progress and accomplishments of partners who are taking concrete actions to implement the manifesto in their work, organization, or community. We're really looking forward to hearing from these partners, but we also know that this is only a small fraction of what's going on across the data values movement. And as many of you who have joined us over the course of the year know, that this has only been one of many community events. These sessions have been instrumental in bringing the community together, exploring complex questions, and inspiring actions. So as we plan for the next phase, we encourage you all to continue to join us and engage or even reach out to co-host a future community meeting. So moving on, before we share what's on the agenda for today, we want to begin with a quick energizer. Please log on to Slido using the image on the screen or by clicking on the link in the chat. You can then complete the questions. So, while everyone takes a few moments to complete those poll questions, I want to share a little bit more about today's agenda and a few housekeeping items. So we have an exciting and packed agenda with great speakers and lots of time for discussion. I'll start us off with a short presentation on the key achievements and impact of the campaign in the past year. Then we'll have 4 lightning talks from partners. The talks will highlight the importance of a diverse multi-stakeholder approach to addressing unequal power dynamics underpinning data, highlighting the work they're leading and how the campaign played a role or influenced their work. Everyone on the call will also have a chance to ask questions of the speakers. Then we're going to go into breakout rooms where we would like to hear from all of you on what aspects of the campaign worked well, what didn't, and what you imagine for the future. The inputs collected will be used to inform the plans and activities for the Data Values campaign in the next year. We're going to capture the insights in a shared Google Doc that'll remain open after the session and shared with you to add other ideas. After the breakout discussion, we'll then come back together towards the end to share some ideas and insights from each group. And finally, we'll share a few upcoming Data Values campaign updates and engagement opportunities, as well as next steps. So we're looking forward to hearing from all of you in this discussion. Now, a couple of housekeeping items. This session is being recorded and will be shared online. A live transcript is available for this session, and you should see the button on your screen now if you would like to turn this on. International Sign Interpretation and French and Spanish interpretation is also available. You should be able to find the appropriate buttons for interpretation in the menu bar in Zoom. Please make sure that if you speak a little more slowly to help everyone follow your comments and the interpretation. Since we have lots of people with us today who'd like to share their experiences, please raise your hand to come in and keep your comments short and sweet. Please also use the chat to communicate and share your ideas and questions at any time. Okay, time to move on to the poll responses. So what do we see? The question, what of the following Data Values Manifesto points resonates the most with you? So we are seeing a majority, 36% for point number 1, number 4 and 5 creeping up, and number 3 and 2 at the lower end. That's very interesting. Now, out of 5 Data Values Manifesto statements, which would you like to learn more about or action more concretely in the next phase of the campaign? That is interesting. So number 4 is getting 40%, creating cultures of transparency, data sharing, and use. The funding one is at 30%, and the others 1, 2, and 3 a bit lower. So this seems a bit of a correlation between those that resonate least and those you want to learn more about. Great. And the third question, in a few words, what challenges do you currently face regarding how data is funded, designed, managed, and used? So data use requires an assessment of required skills. Data literacy is particularly a challenge for empowering citizens. Current data practices exclude communities from the data decision-making spaces that impact their lives. This is a perpetual problem and one that certainly won't change overnight. Respecting personal data privacy, funding for basic household surveys and multidimensional poverty estimates, absolutely. Data sharing, data openness, and how data is being funded. Great. Thank you so much for your insights. It's always great to kick off with a sense of where everyone in the virtual room is at. So over the past year, we've been thoroughly impressed with the community's commitment and energy to advancing data values through their work or communities. So what have we accomplished this year? We've built a diverse, multi-stakeholder community. The Data Values campaign now has more than 600 individuals signed up and organizations from over 100 countries, forming a global network of allies and advocates that are all pushing for a fair data future. We've gathered the community virtually to have open discussions about various aspects of the manifesto. And these gatherings have served as platforms for the movement to come together, discuss, and plan positive actions. But we're not just talking. We're taking concrete steps to change how data is funded, designed, managed, and used for the better. So we've also engaged communities around the world. We've hosted sessions with partners at 6 global events, including a UN SCAP Stats Cafe, the World Data Forum, the Digital Rights and Inclusion Forum, and RightsCon. These events have given us the opportunity to share the Data Values Manifesto with diverse audiences and expand the movement. We've also hosted meetings and workshops with national governments and institutions in countries like Costa Rica, Colombia, Namibia, and Botswana, and introduced them to the importance of data values, as well as initiating conversations about adopting the manifesto in their own country plans and specific objectives. Also this month, we're proud to say that the Power of Data High Impact Initiative that was launched at the UN headquarters during the SDG Summit saw 15 governments announce national data partnerships to drive investments in data systems, and importantly, to use data ethically to achieve the SDGs. We're very proud to be a co-lead of this initiative along with several UN partners, and we're going to be taking steps to advance data values with those committed governments. So we've also launched innovative programs. First, the Data Values Advocates Program, which is a group of 7 grassroots advocates from around the world, and I can see that several of them have joined us today. They're leading action and tackling data inequalities, championing data values in their own communities. Each advocate has completed a specific project that has raised awareness on data values, broadened the movement, and in some cases started to influence change in public sector institutions. Also in spring 2023, we introduced the Fair Data Future Award Program, providing small grants to organizations that are pushing for a more equitable data future. These awardees have arranged workshops, training sessions, events, and social media campaigns to amplify underrepresented voices and advocate for fairer, more transparent, and responsible data systems. We're excited to showcase the impact of these awardees and the advocates at the Festival de Datos in November. I hope you'll all be joining us there. So we've also worked with a network of partners to institutionalize data values. Partners in the data values movement are taking a lead in promoting and implementing data values in their own work. They're working with officials and government stakeholders to start conversations and even organize events and workshops for national statistical offices, civil society, and others to discuss and implement the manifesto. Examples of some of those partners are Data for Change, who have created an interactive tool called Dot the Bot to introduce people to the potential of data and help them learn how to work with it. The Joint IDP Profiling Service, who has convened NSOs, civil society, and others for training on data values and institutionalized the manifesto. And Youth for Privacy, who convened young people from around the world to host a boot camp on data values and data protection. Now, we know that that's just a few, and there are many others leading action and activities to support data values, and we always encourage to hear for you to let us know about what you're doing. But let's hear from a few of those partners themselves. So I'm very honored and pleased to introduce the great speakers we have today, sharing some of their experiences. We have Bipana Dakal, who is a youth activist and leader from Nepal, Camilo Mendez, who is an advisor at the National Administrative Department of Statistics in Colombia, Shruti Viswanathan, who is the Associate Director, Data and Digital Governance at Athena Infonomics in India, and Emma Laura Kisa, who is a data journalist at Code for Africa in Kenya. I'm very pleased to welcome all 4 of you and to hear from you on the importance of a diverse multi-stakeholder approach to addressing unequal power dynamics in data. We're going to start with Bipana, then Camilo, Shruti, and finally Emma. If you all have any questions you'd like to ask any of the speakers, please add them into the chat, and we'll make sure to come to those near the end. So Bipana, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Bipana here. so glad to be here with all these amazing people and looking forward to share my experience with the Data Values community and the work that you are doing, and also listen from the amazing speakers that we have for today.
Vipana, is that all?
Yeah, I mean, I feel as if like I should be introducing first and then moving forward to questions, or how should we proceed with that?
Oh, sorry, Vipana. Yeah, why don't you share your 5 minutes of remarks on your experience? Pardon me.
Okay. Okay, cool, great. So starting right off from where exactly me being associated with the Data Values campaign and the whole community that has been formed so far would definitely be me starting my journey as the founder of the Learning Fortress. So giving a few brief about what exactly the Learning Fortress is. The Learning Fortress is an initiation, which is community foundation or an initiation, which is created in order to provide accessibility for non-formal education to different age groups of children, adolescents, and youths of rural communities of Nepal. That's where the whole scenario and background of me being associated with the Data Values campaign start from. And it's been, I think, it's been already like 1 year since me being associated with this campaign and working deliberately with different stakeholders at different points, be it with local governments, be it with national, be it with regional and global movements and associations so far. And I still remember me along with some other youth leaders on the same table, drafting the manifesto, having this deliberate talks about including factors on data and mentioning factors such as inclusion, such as bringing the concept of diversity, such as us being on the table advocating for data inclusion and participation utmost to what the whole campaign would look centric to. So from that journey to till now, I think what immense thing has been brought up to so far would definitely be the fact of not me as an individual, but I think me as a youth advocate who has been able to work collaboratively with grassroots level, be it local government and also community people. That has been the whole highlight and the whole notion of some sort of remarks that has been accessed to so far. And one beautiful thing also would be us as youth from Nepal. A certain community here is Bardia. It's a really rural community. So the youth from here, me along with some other youth leaders from the community, ourselves try to understand the whole dynamics of what exactly data mean for the youths of different rural communities. And that's like how the whole dynamics of us trying to work for introducing the concept of inclusive data and data for privacy. So with that notion, one small and interesting campaign got started. It was us introducing the concept of street dialogues, understanding the notion of people, what exactly they understand with the term data. Because in Nepal, in our community, the huge issue for now would definitely be the fact that people are not able to get and understand what data is in simpler words. And that is the whole, key issue, which is facing us or putting up us in that radar of not exactly going into the roots of the whole problem. So addressing that key problem that people are not able to understand data in simpler forms, and there are not even much more platforms, much more people talking about data in simpler forms. They're just like making it vague, which is why people are finding it difficult to be connected to. So the whole issue that we got to find about it, and now we are marching for making a more making or introducing data to those people who do not understand it in simpler terms, in the most simpler, in that accessible form which is easier for them. So this has been the whole um, genre, or the kind of idea that we catch up, and we are planning, really excited to, looking forward to execute that notion and some ideas that have come along with. I've also shared it with some of members from the data values community, the stakeholders, and those people I have been working along with, and I'm really excited that looking forward to execute more of amazing ideas on that particular topic in 2024 and in the coming years and months, and hopefully some would be able to share some amazing results from that as well. So this has, I think, this has been the whole highlight. There has been other activities as well, but just to keep it short and
Thanks, Ipana.
highlighted. And yeah, I think this has definitely been the most beautiful thing, that me is not just as a youth data values enthusiast or leader, but also someone who can speak on behalf of many people from marginalized and rural communities. I think this is something the Data Values campaign has been able to empower me, not just in personal level, but on community level as well. I can really vouch on that part as well, and really looking forward to deliberately work along with amazing stakeholders that we have the support of so far, and also kind of enlarge or amplify the voice that we have been advocating for, not just in our community level, but much more in the local aspect. So yeah, I think keeping it short and this is something the whole wrap up from my side.
Thanks so much, Bipana. It was great to see those pictures of you running street dialogues early in the campaign. You've really been an inspiration in your community. So now we're going to move over to Camilo from Dane in Colombia. Over to you, Camilo.
Yeah, so thank you very much. And hello, everyone. My name is Camilo Mendez. So for those who perhaps might not know it, DANE, it's Colombia's National Statistical Office. And that I want to start with that because that makes clear what our role and our activities that we can do within this process can differ from the ones that are carried out by different organizations. So as a public institution, we are given a mandate to work. And I think that, well, we have been part of this effort for more than 3 years, working in what were the key messages that we wanted to transmit to people. And we were even engaged before, which helped us as an institution to start thinking and rethinking what are our values and in which way we can engage with communities. Once we understood this, we realized something that is very important, and is that even if national statistical offices can be perceived as very technical and close institutions within this context of more information that is required for policymaking decisions, it's important that we also rethink the way in which we are collaborating with the different stakeholders. So that is when we started to think of what should be the values that should guide us. A very important issue here is how sometimes the debates that can be held in English are difficult to translate into our own languages. So for us, it's Spanish. So then you start to think and understand and explain the importance of what is data agency, allowing for people to be empowered to use their data. And this has taken a lot of efforts on our end. But I think that if you wanted for me to share like what has been like the main outcome beyond the workshop, which was amazing, it was a workshop that we did in Cali, so as a city from Colombia, and we organized it with foundation is the WWB Bank, focusing on empowerment of women, entrepreneurship, and other elements. But what has really shifted from our engagement in here, it's truly understanding what is our role as National Statistical Office, and not being perceived and not act as a data police or a statistics police, but also seeking in ways in which we can engage with others and create the enabling environments, allowing for the conversations to happen. This has been translated into different projects and approaches with indigenous communities, LGBTQI plus people, and different consultations, allowing to bring in the information from the grassroots and allowing them to be more represented in the data that we have. I'm not saying that what we have been doing is perfect. There's always room for improvement, but I think that what is important from an institutional perspective is to truly understand that if we need to remain relevant, we need to adapt a little bit what are our principles, our values that drive us, and truly understand that we're not just producing an indicator, a number, but that this indicator has an impact on people and what they can do. So now, and to end, what it's important truly, it's to strengthen what we can do in terms of data literacy, allowing for people to understand why the information that Dana is producing might differ from the one that is being produced from other sources, and providing some of the skills that are necessary to truly implement an effective agency on their data, because it's not just using data for the sake of using it, but knowing which are the advantages and disadvantages of using each type of data. So I think I was quite brief, but I hope that it was okay, Jenna.
Fantastic. Thank you, Camilo. I think that Dane has really been one of the greatest leaders in the official statistics community, and really pioneering and being innovative in ways of engaging with communities, which is fantastic. It's great to hear about that. So now we are going to move over to Shruti from Athena Infonomics.
Thank you, Jenna. And it was great listening to both Dana and Camilo about the incredible work that they've been doing so far. I am the Associate Director for Data and Digital Governance for an organization called Athena Infonomics. It's a consulting firm based out of Chennai in India. And what we're trying to do at Athena is combine social science research methods and ICT tools to promote policies and programs that can empower communities with data while supporting sustainable and equitable outcomes. Within data and digital governance practice, we center equity. And this comes with the recognition that the use of data, the use of technology can have both enabling and disabling impacts. And it's important to safeguard against and to design against those disabling impacts. During today, in the next few minutes, I wanted to concentrate on three main pieces of themes that I think align, that we've done with the Data Values Project and speak quite clearly to the themes and the principles that the Data Values Project is trying to promote. These are around data use, data sharing, and data governance. So early on, we worked with the Data Values Project to understand how we can promote better, more effective data use. I think everyone in this room accepts that the use of better data can help us achieve the Sustainable Development Goals and help us achieve equitable development. And in the past decade, we've also seen technological leaps in how we're producing and analyzing data. We're able to produce a lot more data than we could 15 years ago. But this increase in data production and data analysis hasn't necessarily led to increased data use. And what we did as part of the DVP was try to identify what the key barriers to sustained effective data use within institutions are. So we looked at barriers such as data quality, stakeholder and institutional capacity. Are there incentives to use the data they're producing, or is sometimes data just produced to have a tick mark against it? Right? Are there resourcing barriers for effective data use within institutions? And so let's try to set this up in a framing paper so that when institutions are looking at effective data use, they can look at strategies that helps them overcome these common barriers that we found around. The second piece of work that I wanted to talk about was data sharing. I don't think it's too controversial to say that data sharing also provides a lot of opportunity to help identify data that help in equitable outcomes. It helps data sharing between organizations, whether they're public sector or private sector organizations, help us overcome gaps in data access, gaps in data production, gaps in data capacities. And so there's a lot of potential that data sharing across organizations can bring to achieving sustainable development goals. Every day, we see the launching and announcement of new data partnerships. But at a similar rate, we see these partnerships on taper off or they work come quickly to a close. And what we try to understand, what leads to effective data sharing? What are the constituent elements of good data sharing partnerships? And we, with GPSPB, launched a cookbook which looked at what are the best practices in data sharing amongst organizations and what are the recipes of success really that an effective data sharing partnership should be looking at. The last piece of work that I talk about is around data governance. We are looking at equity in data use, but equally important is equity in data governance. Is a data producer able to control what data is being used about them? Are they profiting from the data that is being used about them? And we looked at alternative data governance models, specifically in the field of agriculture. We explore data stewardships, data cooperatives, data trusts, the use of indigenous local knowledge and indigenous data methods. And how can alternate governance models promote equity and dignity of the individual, of the data producer, and ensure that they, and not necessarily larger organizations or larger governments alone, are reaping the benefits of the data revolution. I'll stop there. Of course, open to questions about any of this. I know I've just touched the tip of all this great work that we've been doing, but happy to entertain questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Shruti. Really appreciate your insights there, especially given all the work you do with governments in South Asia. So now we're going to move over to hear from Emma. Over to you.
Thank you so much. My name is Emma Kisa, and I am a data analyst at Code for Africa, as well as the team lead for Open Africa. So now, Code for Africa is the continent's largest indigenous civic technology organization, and they have civic technology labs, open data labs, journalism labs. So knowing the importance of open data to the process of actionable information, Code for Africa maintains the open data platform that is Open Africa, which I am a team lead of. And this is the continent's largest independent repository of open data. So it's good that I'm coming off of what Shukri has been talking about, because she brought in the sharing aspect of open data. So CFA invested in the platform because we saw a need for a reliable one-stop data source for the continent, and because we value the data that our users need and also what the creators have out there. We liberate data from cabinets, from reports, from behind closed doors, and make it available in digital formats for our different users. So on the platform, one can find data that is not easily accessed elsewhere. And in the last 3 months, we boast 34,000 users for our platform. We have over 6,900 data sets from 190 organizations. So that's about Open Africa and Code for Africa. Our audience at Open Africa is primarily creators, journalists, and researchers, and they are looking to address Africa's different and vast challenges in data and in communication as well. And they use this data to tell compelling stories as well as to support decision-making in the different aspects that they are found in. So it is because of this nature of work, among others, that Code for Africa is very, very interested in the Data Values campaign, and why we are honored to be a part of it. All the Data Manifesto statements, which are also called the 5 guiding principles, are important to us and important to our work at Code for Africa, but I want to talk about 2 of them that stand out and that are very key in what we work with at Open Africa as well as Code for Africa. And these are democratizing data skills for greater equity, as well as creating cultures of transparency, data sharing, and data use. So how have these helped us in the last 1 year of this campaign? At Code for Africa, everyone has an opportunity to work with data at any area, any stage of the data process. So this would include sourcing, cleaning, scraping, formatting, visualization, verification, interpretation, as well as data use. And this is regardless of skill that you have, regardless of the role that you are in, we will have the team members work on data, use data. So this is with specific emphasis for women, because we do have women-directed projects like our Wana Data project, which is a collection of journalists, civic tech people, researchers, data scientists, generally change makers, and they are women across the continent. So that is one of our niche places where we are working with data and with this. So CFA held an organization-wide brown bag session with the Data Values campaign, and this was facilitated by the team from the Data Values campaign, and it was an amazing time because our team gained great insights to support the establishment of new practices focused on inclusivity, very important to us, as well as supporting people that are represented in data. So that is one of the things that came out for us in this campaign. The next one is that following that training, Code for Africa has incorporated the statement that I talked about, democratizing data skills for equity, for greater equity. We have incorporated that into our process documents, into our processes, and we are coordinating capacity building sessions for our team in light of that, because we got to the realization of how important this is through our brown bag session that I have mentioned. The next thing is for the data sharing cookbook, an amazing resource to us. It was and still is very helpful in streamlining our multi-party data sharing process. And this is both for the platform Open Africa as well as for our other partners that we work with as well. Secondly, for the data cookbook, it has helped us work on our data governance guideline document. It has been a very, very good resource for us to use in working on that document, because, and I will quote what the cookbook says, multi-party data sharing initiatives in the development sector have proliferated in the past decade as efforts to better leverage data for achieving the sustainable development goals have intensified. So the Data Values campaign is helping us, an organization, be a part of that conversation, is making us better placed to have our thoughts heard and to be seen because of what it provides for us. So that is what I have. Us at Code for Africa do have some suggestions and proposals for the next steps. I'm sure that later there will be some time for that, but I'll just list some what we propose for the next steps. One is to train partners on each of the manifesto statements individually. When we had the training, we got all of them at once, and it would be amazing to have it individually. Another is to share collected data with stakeholders and for use and reuse. One is to be mapping existing open data initiatives in Africa and everywhere else that you are, so that we facilitate harmonization, collaboration, and reduce replication. And then finally have regular meetings where partners will exchange knowledge on best practices or consolidate learning and draw out common insights. So thank you for having me. Thank you for listening to us and having us on. And congratulations again to the team and the community on 1 year.
Thank you, Emma. That was wonderful to hear. Amazing accomplishments by you and Code for Africa. It's also, I have to tell everyone that we did not plan for both Shruti and Emma to reference the cookbook on data sharing. Shruti was involved in putting it together, and we're really pleased to hear, Emma, that you and colleagues are using it. So that's really exciting and really great to hear how these different pieces come together. Thanks also, Emma, for your suggestions. We will have more time for that in a moment. I see that we have a few questions in the chat, which I'll sort of read out and maybe kind of pose back. And because we don't have tons of time and we want to get into the breakout rooms, I'll sort of direct these to colleagues. So the first question from Oliver Rack is, does anyone know which statistical offices are running a community-based monitoring system? And he links to the Philippine Statistical Authority's CBM. So that's the stats office in the Philippines that's been running a community-based monitoring system for quite some time. You're all welcome to check it out. It's quite impressive, especially given the unique geography in the Philippines and the way in which they've rolled out a process for engaging the community in data collection. What I might do, Camilo, and you can think about this, is while you may not be familiar with that, I wonder if from your engagement with the broader official statistics community, you have any thoughts on for DANE or other stats offices in the LATAM region or beyond that are doing similar activities. And then we have a question from Winifred about engagement in Uganda and supporting communities. The global partnership doesn't work as actively in Uganda as we do in some other African countries, but we certainly have partners there. And Fadumo can connect you later with some of those. One, for example, is Lifeline Youth Empowerment Center, who works with Data for Change. But perhaps, Emma, if you have partners that you work with in Uganda, you might be able to make some suggestions there. So we'll take just 2 minutes over to Camilo and 2 minutes over to Emma, if you have anything to add to answer those two questions.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Jenna. So there are some offices which might be a little bit more reluctant to try this kind of new approaches to data collection. So I think that one of the things that should be referenced within this question is the efforts that have been carried out to create a framework for the inclusion of citizen-generated data in what NSOs do. And this is very important because even if stats offices can be quite open to review these new methods, it's important that all these efforts are agreed and there's a framework allowing them to do it. One of the benefits that Colombia has for the engagement with the community is that from the legal perspective, we are mandated to carry out this consultation. So for other countries, this might be a little more difficult and challenging. But I think that in the region, there is a huge opportunity to engage with the communities, given the diversity that we have here in Latin America, and we look forward to being able to share more of this within the upcoming Festival de Datos. So I think it's great to engage in this kind of peer exchanges, allowing for the experiences to be shared on this.
Thanks, Camilo. Yes, indeed, there will be a fair bit of discussion about citizen-generated data at the festival. There was also a meeting on citizen-generated data last week organized by UN Stats Division with the official statistics community, bringing players together. So there's an opportunity to get involved at that level as well. It's an ongoing process. And over to you, Emma, with regard to engagements in Uganda.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. And thank you, Winfred, for the question that you have asked. I'm not sure what you mean by supported to work with data, because there's a long process in that. Do you have data that you'd like to share so that it's reused and it is known that is out there? Do you want to learn how to collect your own data, especially for Mudiwa, your organization? So there are different levels of the data processes, but we are available at Code for Africa to help you in that, which we can train different organizations on how to source data, create their own data, or use the data that they have found, analyze it, and make it available for anybody. So I'd like you to reach out to me. I'll share my email address in the chat, but we are available to help you because we have offices in 22 African countries and a presence in more. And I have colleagues in Kampala, in Uganda, who can reach out for a training if that is what is needed in your situation, or for how to use data you already have, and everything that is in the data process. So please reach out and we will work on getting what your support that you need from us.
Wonderful. Thank you, Emma. We also have a question, a direct question for Bipana, which I'll ask now, and ask you, Bipana, to just be brief, maybe 2 minutes, and then we're going to move into the breakout groups. Before I pose that question, I see, William, you're asking about how to get involved. At the end of this session today, we are going to share more information about how to get involved. So please hold on for that. So Bipana, the question that was sent to you is, what developments have happened since you joined the Data Values campaign? How have you coordinated or engaged with policymakers? And where are you from in Nepal? Over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for this question. I'm based in Bardia, Nepal, so which is the Midwest part of here in Nepal. It's a really small village. And the beautiful thing about like how the whole journey so far has been, or how I am directly associated with the Data Values campaign development and what exactly work has been carried out so far, would definitely be the fact that I started right at the Data Values Manifestation, where I was involved directly. Me along with other different stakeholders from different regions of the world got together at the platform, and we were able to kind of, put together, jot down some of our ideas and thoughts, like how we want to shape exactly the data values community or the Data Values Manifesto to be. And from that onward, I think the more of a support and the development, what led on to would definitely be the fact that direct mentorship, also from the Data Values community and the stakeholders. That's a really great way how it leader, but also as someone who is directly or indirectly involved with a lot of things happening around in the Data Values community. And also along with that, I think another thing would definitely be connecting me with other stakeholders from within the community who share, similar ideas or maybe some sort of movements and campaigns happening around. So that's also another beautiful thing, how it has kept me bounded and has really inspired me, and he has been so much enthusiastic with the support that the whole community has provided to me. And another thing is that regarding connecting me with policymakers would definitely be the fact that I think I'm someone who directly reach out to people in whichever platform I am present at. If I find something, the work that I do and something that I want to reach out to that policymakers, it's something that I make sure that I directly connect with them, or else I'll talk with someone from within the Data Values community or someone I know to kind of help me connect with that person, so I carry out that conversation or keep my points up to that person, be it policymakers, be it people from government, be it any other stakeholders. But yeah.
Thank you so much, Bipana. That's really great. Well, thanks everyone for your questions. Thanks to our 4 speakers for sharing your experience and your thoughts. It's really exciting. Now I'm looking forward to moving on to our second portion, where we're going to hear from all of you in breakout rooms about how it's gone for the past year and what you think we need to do in the next year. So I'll hand it now over to my colleague Lydia, who's going to take us through the next section.
Hi, everyone. My name's Lydia, and I work at the Global Partnership. So next, we are going to break into breakout rooms. So everybody is going to be pre-assigned. Hopefully, you should just magically move there. There shouldn't be anything that you need to do, but we're all going to be talking about 4 of the same questions, reflecting on the presentations that we've just heard. And this is really an opportunity to share your thoughts about what you think has worked well in the campaign, what you think perhaps we could do a little bit more of, and yeah, what you think would work well in the future. We're going to have a little bit less time because, we've had such an interesting discussion so far. So we're going to have about 20 to 25 minutes. But this is all, there's going to be a countdown timer on the screen. So timekeeping will be done by us at the Global Partnership. So don't worry about keeping track of that. And there's going to be a note taker and in each of the rooms, as well as someone moderating as well. So yeah, everyone should have been pre-assigned a group. So if you are requiring an interpreter, that should be all taken care of. But hopefully with the magic of technology, Fadumo is now going to send us all to those rooms. So we will come back in about 20 to 25 minutes when we will share some points as well from the different discussions. Okay, thank you, everyone. We should all be back in the same room now. So we're just going to take a little bit of time now to reflect on the conversations that we had. I hope everyone had an interesting and fruitful discussion. And I know it was cut a little bit short. So if there were things that you weren't able to share in your group, don't worry, there's going to be lots of opportunities to think about what the next stages of the data values campaign looks like, and to make sure that it's serving the community. There'll be lots of opportunities to do that coming up. So we're just going to take a little bit of time now, I think, to go to each of the groups to hear about what was discussed in them. And we had a really interesting discussion in our group thinking about how do we connect the Data Values Project with things like human rights, and then also how do we potentially connect with more slightly different and more interesting people outside of beyond the sort of the usual suspects, and also like how do we hold people to account. So lots of things are going to be really helpful for us when we are writing or strategizing for the next stage of the campaign. But I would love to hear from other people as well. So if there was a discussion point in your group that you found really interesting, something that made you think differently, if there is anything that anyone would like to share, if you would like to raise your hand and I can come to you. If not, I can ask some of the moderators to chime in as well. But yeah, please raise your hand if there is something that you would like to share specifically from your discussion. Okay, it doesn't look like anybody's raising their hand, so I'm just going to come to some of the moderators. I don't know if Janet from the Global Partnership, I don't know if you wanted to share anything of interest that you guys discussed in your group.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. One thing that came up really interesting in our group was we were talking about ways that organizations that are spread out really far around the world, but working on similar projects, or organizations that are near you that are working on similar projects, right? Like, how do you make those connections so that you can learn about things that are happening, or maybe pair up with people, or maybe help each other on solving common problems? And we've kind of talked a little bit about ways to do that, but one of the things that came up is that everybody is using a lot of social media, and that potentially Instagram would be a good place to do that because many, especially young people, are on Instagram. And yeah, if anyone from my group wants to come in on that, that'd be great. And otherwise, I'll just stop there. And then if you come back to me, I can give you something else.
Thanks, Janet. If there's anyone from Janet's group who wants to chime in, please feel free to raise your hand. Otherwise, I can go to another group and see if there was anything else that came up. I know it's definitely something, finding the network, not reproducing work, and making sure that we're working to the most efficiency across different organizations is often hard. Francois, yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lydia. In our group, I think one of the key recommendations that came out, for the future is to maximize our campaign in countries where we are, because we do have people online with us, and then they hear about the work happening in their country, though they're also working in the data sector, but they weren't aware of it. So suggestion is for us to maximize it. But I want to hand it over to my group member, who just shared that, so that you can give more light to it.
Thank you, Francois. Was there anyone from Francois group who wanted to expand on that point at all?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just saying that from the presentation, got to hear some work going on in the country I'm in that would be really great to collaborate on, or rather just to learn from each other. So a proposal for the future, probably having more of even in-country exchanges that people working in data values within the same country can be able to have a platform where they can converse, find out what each other is doing, and then even explore areas of collaboration. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, opportunities to collaborate and connect seems to be a theme that's coming up. So it's definitely something that we'll be thinking about, how we can make sure that people are connecting with those around them who are working on similar topics. Okay, I don't know if Yazid, was there anything that you wanted to share from your group at all?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. Basically, what we were able to talk about the first and second question, we're on the third before we are cut short. So I would like to ask some of the people that are in my group, if you have anything you want to add about ideas for future, please feel free to share it here. It's very important. It would inform the next stage of the project. So some of the key and some of the interesting things we discussed is around what worked well first was around the communication. Everybody applaud the communication strategies are put in, and the data values advocate program that's part of the campaign as well, and the manifesto. People all commended that. However, also people have some things they feel like it should be included. First is someone making a very valid contribution of saying that there was a program or an application by the campaign in which the person submitted application. At first they were engaged, and later on the communication was kind of cut. So it's very important to communicate with people. That was really also important. And also we have suggestions around maybe communication, creating different communication toolkits in different languages to ensure that people at grassroots communities have access to or are empowered to take action. And this can be done through partnership with the national partners or the partners the campaign has already in its existing community. Uh, more contribution was made. I don't know if Mutoni would like to jump and say something that I've missed, or any members want to add something. So basically, that's what happened in our group. So thank you.
Sure, this is Madani. I'll just jump in. Thanks, Yazid. I think, as Yazid said, we got a lot of applause for the global reach and sensitization that the Data Values team has achieved across various sectors, multiple partners, backgrounds, and so on. But at the same time, someone mentioned that our messaging can be more relatable to even younger age groups, and as well as older age groups. I think there's like those extremes that we could possibly look at reaching next year. And also, I captured a few ideas for the future, even though we hadn't reached there yet. One was focusing on more multilingual communication at the local level. So especially demystifying jargon related to stuff like data governance and security, which would empower communities to understand the importance of their data, and using more accessible mediums at that level. And then I think also looking at more ways for advocacy, activism, and more in-person engagements, and just more interactive communication modes such as videos and conferences moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Mithoni, and thank you, Yazid. Yeah, definitely. I know that conversations were cut short across, so we're going to hand over to Fadumo in a second. She's going to wrap up, but hopefully she can talk a little bit more about opportunities to feed anything in. But yeah, it's really great to hear about conversations about accessibility. That should really be at the heart of everything that we do, and that goes beyond just different languages. As you say, it's about jargon, it's about what works in different contexts and different countries. So yes, definitely something that we'll be thinking about for the next steps. So I'm just going to hand back to Fadumo now, who's going to talk about wrapping up. But thank you everyone for sharing and getting involved in the discussions.
Thank you so much, Lydia. Hello, everyone. So just very quickly, I'm going to just share a couple of opportunities and next steps on the consultation. So happening very soon, we have Festival de Datos. So registration is still open. I'm going to share the link in the chat before we log off here. But if you're interested in kind of engaging in further conversations around strengthening data communities and just sort of unlocking the true value of data, we'd love to have you at the festival. And then again, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has provided their valuable input at our consultation today. Our plan is to collect this feedback that we received and kind of incorporate it and help us to and help that form what the next phase of the Data Values campaign is going to look like. And so our team is going to also host a session at the Festival de Datos where we're going to engage a few other networks, a few other partners in our network to collect more insight. And then we're going to consolidate all of that and use that to plan for the next phase. And so if you do have additional input or you would like to kind of continue having conversations with myself or Jenna or Lydia or anyone who spoke at the session today, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll add my email in the chat just before we log off. And we can set up a call. And also, if you are subscribed to the Data Values newsletter, we're going to be sharing some of this input and feedback and ways for you to further add input as well. So with that said, we'd love to just wrap up the session now. I know we're just about time. And so I'm going to add a few things in the chat, and I'm also going to launch a short feedback poll so that we could get just a little bit more insight on how you found today's session and ways that we can continue to collaborate together. So I'll pause here to see if Jenna wants to come in and say any final closing remarks. And thank you all.
Thanks, Fadumo. Nothing more from me apart from a big thank you. So thanks everyone for your time today. The session was a bit longer, I think, than some of our community meetings have been, and we appreciate you sticking with us, and particularly through the breakout sessions and sharing all of your inputs on the campaign as we move into a sort of next year. And we want to make sure to maximize as many opportunities, as well as get a little deeper in reflecting on some of your comments. Thanks also to our 4 speakers for being with us today and sharing your experience. And thanks to everyone for the work that you're doing across your own sort of areas of specialization and in your communities to advance the data values agenda. So please do fill out this poll, which Fadumo has shared. It's short and sweet, but it is helpful for us. We appreciate your feedback. Take a few minutes to do that. And thank you all. Have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much.